Welcome to the Want to Learn podcast. I'm your host, Francis Tappan. I'm here with Patrick Martin Schroeder. How are you? Sehr gut?
I'm good, Francis.
Patrick is an adventure nut that makes me look like an idiot because this guy has been biking to more than 150 countries. Like, if he wants to go to India, he doesn't just like get up a plane and then rent a bike in India. You actually leave Germany, buy a bicycle, and get to India. Is that right?
Yes. It depends on the tour. The three biggest tours I've started from Germany and did overland the entire distance.
Okay, so let's take the big overview from. Those are the three big tours. Give us the general overview of each of the three tours.
Well, the first one was my first big bike trip, and I started from Germany and I went south. So I just cycled south, Alps, Italy, then the Balkans down to the Middle East, Turkey, Syria, Jordan, Israel, and then went to Northern Africa.
Okay.
Then crossed the Sahara. If you look at the
Sorry,
map,
where did you cross the Sahara?
you follow the Nile through Egypt
Okay.
and then go through Sudan.
Right.
The Nile Road, I know you know it.
Yes.
It was in construction when I did it, so it was partially unpaved and I had to follow some dried out rivers and whatnot. And I was going at night because it was colder.
But
So yeah,
by the way,
and then
I actually never did actually cross all the way from Egypt to Sudan. I went south, southern part of Egypt and the northern part of Sudan, but I actually didn't actually connect those two dots. Anyway,
Okay.
But go ahead.
You couldn't get the
No,
ferry at Wadi Halfa was a problem.
no, it wasn't a ferry. It wasn't a problem. It just wasn't. I changed my plans and itinerary. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then, once you crossed into Sudan, where did you
Yes.
go on your bicycle on that first trip?
I followed East Africa and Central Africa all the way down to Cape Agulhas, the southernmost point in South Africa.
And then when you got to Cape Agulhas, what did you do at that point? Did you say, okay, God, it's a long way back home. I'm going to get on a boat or take a flight back home?
No, I already had the flight booked from Cape Town,
Okay.
so I came a little bit prepared.
Okay.
But the day getting to Agulhas was amazing. It was super windy. It was very tough getting there, but it was just an amazing feeling because I was 21 at the time and I just crossed the entire continent by bike, and I was like, I did it.
You
Like
not
this
just you,
was
you did 1.5 continents, really. I mean, you did all of the African continent and you did part of Europe, basically.
yes, but Europe's easy.
Hey, don't say that too much because there's some guys who like that is their lifelong dream, and that just going biking across Europe, that's a lot. It's a big deal for many people.
Yes.
But so okay. So tell me then, what was your second big trip?
The second big trip is with one of my ex-girlfriends at the time. We planned together to go the Pan American Highway.
Okay.
So
And
we did
at this point, you were not 21. You were how old at that point? 20.
22.
Oh, just like the next year.
Yes.
You don't waste any time. Not this.
No.
Recharge my batteries and that kind of shit. Yeah, I'm just gonna go straight to Latin America.
Yes. Between India and Africa was 3 weeks rest. After Africa and South America, a couple of months. But generally, I spent about 2-3 months a year in Germany and then the rest traveling for about 10 years straight.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So hold on. But okay, so many questions are going through my mind. So one question at a time. You went let's keep chronological here. So at the age of 22, so you just came back from the southernmost part of Africa. You came back home to Germany. You hung out there for a
Yes.
few months. You met a girlfriend, or maybe you already had one. Where was she from, the girlfriend?
Met
What country?
Germany, Cologne,
Okay. So
close by.
when you left to go to South Africa on bicycle from Cologne,
Yes.
you already had that girlfriend.
No, afterwards, when I got back.
Oh, so she's like, dude, you're a real stud. You've got some strong legs. I like a man with strong legs. I like you. And then all of a sudden you start dating.
A little bit. I look like a scarecrow because of all the weight loss, but other than that, yes.
Really? You lost a lot of weight? Really?
While cycling through Africa, surprisingly, yes, if you do 10 hours of cardio a day.
No, but I mean, you didn't start as a fat ass, did you?
No, I had a lot more muscles back then.
Okay,
now.
so no, but so in other words, what kind of physiological? I would imagine that when you were 21 years old, you weren't that fat. You weren't like you were in shape. You didn't lose much weight, right?
Let's go back chronologically a bit.
Okay,
When I was in school, I got up at 5 in the morning, went jogging, went swimming, then went to school. So
right.
after school, I went to the military for like a year, the service that we had in Germany.
Hmm.
And I saved all my money. And then I did a 1 year around the world trip as a backpacker. So my idea was do this for 1 year, then go to university. So I did the basic regular backpacking like Europe by Euro Trail, Southeast Asia, Australia, New Zealand, North and Central America. And then I
So,
went back home.
and this is when you were 20 years old or something?
19, yeah.
19. Okay, okay, I got it. Okay, so this
And
was that was really your first trip, not your first
yes,
biking trip, but it was your first get out of Germany trip. Not really, but not your first. Anyway, go international, like far, far, far away trip.
it was my first own holiday, so
Now,
to
now, did
speak.
your parents just never like let you out of the house? What was the story there?
My mother was quite scared for the tour, but
No, no,
other
but
than
in other
that,
words,
they were
like when
quite
you were a
suspicious.
child, did your parents not like say, okay, don't cross the street, Patrick. There's a lot of dangerous people there. And it's like all your entire life you spent in your home.
No, I did spend a lot of time indoors because I love to read and because I was a weird kid.
Okay.
But
But not
my
because your
parents,
parents were like telling you, Cologne,
no,
if you leave the outskirts of Cologne, you will die.
no,
They didn't
no,
scar you with such a terrible vision of the world. So it's
no,
this desire to like, nor did they actually take you on wild, crazy trips either, correct?
not wild, crazy trips, like general family holiday,
Let's go to the
Denmark.
Alps or flat places like
Yeah,
Denmark or whatever. And,
yes,
and so, okay. So they were pretty normal parents.
yeah.
Okay. And then, but for whatever reason, at the age of 19, you said, hey, I want to go leave Germany and go far, far, far away.
I think I did that at the age of 16, 17. I actually talked with my geography teacher about it, and he
Mm.
helped me plan the route for my first trip.
The one that you went to Southeast Asia and all this other stuff?
Yeah,
Okay, so
like
16, you were planning it and you executed it in when you were 19.
yes, with 18 I finished school, then I had to do the 1 year military, and then with 19 I left.
Got it. Okay, so you basically we have to blame your entire life on your geography teacher.
Yes, that would be okay.
Does your geography teacher know what you've done since you left your geography's class?
Partially, yes, I've met him twice afterwards, but it's been a couple of years.
Okay, so
He's
so then therefore he knows of your first bite trick at least,
yes,
and he gave you a high five. I hope.
yes, he was. He was still asking me when I go to South America because it was the last continent I hadn't been
Oh,
to at the
really?
time.
So he just like you're a
Yes.
fucking pussy, Patrick. You haven't
No.
done South America. That's what he was telling you. He's just like you're just such a wimp. Get out there. What are you still doing here in Germany? Get the fuck out of here. Go to South America and finish the continent.
That was so wrong.
He didn't say
No,
this.
no, no, he's retired and he wanted to go there himself, but he feels like he's too old, so he wanted to ask what it is like.
Oh, okay, 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 okay. I love how I'm putting words in your geography teacher's mouth.
Yes, yes.
Okay,
He
so
would not be very impressed.
well, luckily he's not going to be listening to this.
Yes, I'll
He
send him a
doesn't speak
copy.
English, right?
He does. And
Unfortunately.
Latin.
Oh my goodness, God. Okay, well, all right. So sorry, geography teacher. I'm putting words in your mouth. What about but Antarctica? Have you been to Antarctica?
No. I could have
Because
gone,
they have
but
no
only
bike
with.
roads. Is that it?
I would like to cycle to the South Pole, and a handful of people have done it.
Really? They've done the
Yes,
bicycle to the
yes.
South Pole.
But there are like different categories with like trikes and a wing, so you can get dragged by the wind a little bit, or it's supported, unsupported. So there's still some new ideas there.
Trikes, I imagine that as kind of like a tricycle.
Yes,
Okay. And but does it have wheels? The trike?
yes. It's like a recumbent bicycle, but with 3 wheels.
Okay.
It's
So you're
lower, so you have less wind resistance, and you can't fall over, and you
okay.
have a lot more space for luggage. That's why they took it.
Okay. So it's kind of okay. Got it. And these must be very special, thick wheels or wide wheels or whatever. And then
Ah, that's
sometimes but in other words, are they actually using human power the entire way, or are they catching a sail?
one guy did it with a sail, another one had skis with him, and then it depends who you ask.
So no purist who just did 100% on a bicycle.
As far as I'm aware, no. Like a bicycle has 2 wheels. A trike is something else.
Got
But
it.
it
Got
was a
it.
human powered trike, so yeah.
Okay.
But she
Okay. Okay.
also had a support vehicle with her who carried
Supplies.
like supplies, a doctor, and so forth.
Yeah. 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 Okay. Got it. Yeah. So not a. I mean, nothing to complain about, but not as you could step it up a notch if that's
Yes,
what you want to
yes,
do, to make it even more challenging.
yes.
Okay, so we're still with your kind of general overview of what you've done because we still haven't even gotten past your first trip. Okay, so we just okay, so at the age of 19, you did kind of a typical travel around the world kind of trip that many people do. How many countries did you visit there? Some 25 countries or something?
Yeah,
Something like that.
about
Yeah.
30 with the small ones in Europe, but I just passed through.
Right. And then you came back. That was at 19 years old. And then at the
Yeah,
age of 21, you decided to take a bicycle down to South Africa from Germany. And then at the age of 22, you you've got these sexy legs. You attract a German girl in Cologne in your hometown, and then you say, "Hey, how about we go to South America, to Central America, to what part of Americas?
South America.
South America."
All
Okay.
three, actually.
Okay.
Every country in South Central North America.
So wait, did you start in Canada?
No, in Brazil.
Okay, Brazil, and then you went all over South America, and
Yeah.
then with her, she was biking with you, or at some point did she give up?
Yes. um, we
How,
started biking, but
how
she
did
didn't
I
like the
guess that
biking
part of
all
the
too much.
story? I was just
So
saying,
she,
a lot of people would give up.
yeah, she sent her bike back home and traveled with public transport or hitchhiking, and we met up along the way. But then from Panama on, we split up, and I went to North America, and she went. She stayed a while, did her dive master, and then went to New Zealand, Australia, work and travel.
Okay, all right. So, you in Brazil, you guys were biking around together in Brazil, and
Yes,
then she. How many countries of did you see all of Latin America? Is all of South America together?
yes.
And then so she got to Panama, and then she said, "Thanks, I don't want to bike anymore."
No, she sent the bike back home from Colombia,
Oh,
like
Colombia.
earlier,
Sorry. Okay, okay. And
and then in Panama we split up.
okay, so my favorite part of the Americas is the Darien Gap because I've never been there, and everybody
Hmm.
avoids it. I assume you avoided it, I don't know. You had to like go around it or something like that, or did you actually take your bicycle through there?
We hitchhiked from Cartagena by boat
Okay,
to,
to
I
cut.
think, Porto Obaldea, and but will go back soonish to the Darien Gap because there's the highest mountain of Panama.
Is it? I had no
Yes.
idea. Okay, okay. Yeah, because I mean, there have been many people who I'm fascinated by the Darien Gap, and I'm sure you are too, right?
Yeah, I've seen a couple of reports, talked to a few people who've been there.
Yeah. So tell us about what you've learned, your reconnaissance here.
Like for visiting the Darien Gap?
Yeah. So let's back up just so people who are listening to this and are wondering, scratching their heads, what is the Darien Gap? The Darien Gap is a piece of land that goes uh, that connects southern Panama to, I guess, Colombia. Is it?
Yes.
Yeah. So that little section of there's a road that goes all the way from Alaska all the way down to Tierra del Fuego all the way in South America, but that road there's a gap in the road, and that is called the Darien Gap, and it has been that way for the longest time. And so
Forever, yeah.
yeah, and so people who like to go across the Americas always face that challenge, and 99% of people bypass the gap by going to
Yes.
Cartagena, and maybe 1% or less, maybe 1 in 1,000, actually decide to cross the gap. And very few people have done it. Apparently, it's a drug-infested place, but is it really?
From what I know is that the people didn't build the road to stop the drug trafficking a little bit. It's also a national park. There were FARC, the Colombian rebels,
Right.
drug trafficking, and it's an indigenous area. So there's some tribal areas around there. So all of that makes it a little bit more difficult.
But isn't it a lot safer now than it's ever been before?
Yes.
Okay.
And the area where I would go, it would be entirely inside of Panama. So I don't have to illegally cross the border. So if I want to go from Panama City to the highest mountain in Panama, I don't really have to cross it. I have to go in it and out. And there isn't any issue there.
Oh, so your intention is not to get to Colombia.
My intention right now is mountaineering, like ticking
Right.
off highest places per country.
Got it. Okay, so, but what in your research have you discovered about the Darien Gap today regarding people who actually want to go completely across it from Panama all the way into Colombia?
Most of them took a local guide. Like there are some stretches on rivers with canoes, and
You can't walk the
need
whole distance? I thought there's.
you can walk, but you have to fjord rivers. Like you can
Okay.
ask Ed Schroeder, the guy who walked the Amazon. He should be fine there.
Yeah, really. No kidding. Okay, so all right, so I got so much to talk about it. So let's see. Now, when your girlfriend stopped in Panama to go do her diving thing and to go off to New Zealand, at that point you decided to keep going to El Norte, to the Americas, to the North America. How far north
Yes,
did you go?
Canada.
Canada. Okay.
It was the plan to go to North America anyway. So she changed her plan. I kept with mine.
Like a
And yes,
like a dedicated
no
man.
quitter. Yeah.
Yes, that's right. And so
So
why did she decide to quit? Was it just because you were biking too fast, or was it because you didn't wear deodorant? What was it?
uh, it was partially too much cycling, especially with the tropical climate and the mountains, the Andes. And we also split up at the time. So why should we keep traveling together?
Yeah, of
And she
course.
wanted to do some nicer, friendlier places than I was going to.
So now she weighs 100 kilograms and she's over and done with.
No, no, she is a nutritionist and personal trainer, and she opened a couple of hostels in Sri Lanka and India.
Okay, almost right.
Yes, putting words in people's mouth, Francis.
Okay, so, but I like my stories better than reality.
But I like my ex better than the way you describe her.
Okay. Luckily, she's not listening to this either.
Oh, she will.
Okay.
I'll send her a link.
Okay.
She's in Bavaria as well right now.
All right. Sounds good. So she should have been on this podcast right now. Okay. So then,
You can, seriously, you can do one with her because she traveled 6 years around the world as well.
yeah, I'm sure, of course.
I mean,
just,
beginner.
just that trip alone, that first trip you guys took together is a long enough to cover us a podcast. Here we are. Just that's a tiny segment of your life.
Should I offer you something? Should I just quickly sum up what I did and then you can pick something that's of
Sure.
interest to you?
Yeah. Well, it's all of interest to me, but continue. Okay. Yes. Go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. So I did cycle the Pan American till San Diego and LA, and then I decided, oh, the flights from Alaska are very expensive and New York is much cheaper. So I did the Route 66 by bike and then went into the Great Lakes and Franco, Canada, and then down the east coast of the States to New York. And that was this big trip that took 1.5 years in total.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, I continued cycling a bit in Europe, Scandinavia, Eastern Europe. And then I realized that I had traveled 5 years with the summer. So Northern Hemisphere summer, then autumn in the equator, and then the winter in the southern hemisphere, of course, in their summer. So I had next to no snow. So I wanted to do something in winter. So I did go to Ukraine by bike in winter as a test run to go to Chernobyl and everything. And then I thought, okay, I'm going to like this. Let's get some winter gear. And the year after, I did the Trans-Siberian, like partially by train and partially by bike, cycled over Lake Baikal while it was frozen.
Oh, right. Yeah,
Gobi Desert, China, and then went all the way Korea, Japan, Taiwan. And then from China, I cycled the Silk Road through Central Asia back to Europe.
And that was all one continuous trip. That was your
Yes.
second big trip, you would call it, correct?
That would be the third one. Africa was 1 year. America was one and
it's
a
your
half.
third. Yes. I'm sorry. It's your third. Yes, sorry.
Third big bike trip, and there was the 1 year around the world before that. Then I did a couple trips in Africa. I did West Africa, like Paris-Dakar, and Guinea-Bissau. But then Ebola broke out, and they closed the land border to Côte d'Ivoire, to the Ivory Coast. So I had to turn around.
Oh, this was 2014.
Yes.
Got it.
I had a very good timing. I went to the Ukraine when the protest happens and Kiev burned down, and I went to Africa when Ebola broke out.
Yes.
And then
I was right. I was in Ukraine right before those things, and I was in the Ebola region 6 months before it broke out. So I was just like, just a few months ahead of you, I guess.
That was all you, yeah?
Exactly. I am part of the CIA. I started all these problems.
Oh, yeah. That makes sense.
Exactly.
So thank you, Francis.
Sure, for ruining your vacation.
Yes, if you could call it a vacation.
Exactly.
So then I did another trip with a bamboo bike in West Africa, like 5,000 kilometers.
A bamboo bike. So a bike made out of bamboo.
Yes.
Okay, so where did you purchase or acquire this bike out of bamboo?
It was given to me by Maibu, a German company that sells those in Germany, but the frames are handmade in Ghana. So I did visit the manufactory and then cycle a big 5,000K loop around West Africa from Ghana to Ghana.
So wait, so what you're telling to me is that you went to Ghana, visited the factory.
By airplane.
By airplane, right? And then you stole one of the bikes and then left.
No, I actually flew. This is ridiculous. They're making the frames in Africa, but I got the bike in Germany and I flew the bike from Germany down there.
Oh, that's so fucking stupid. Come on, really?
Yes.
What
Yes,
the
because
fuck?
they built the bikes in Germany, but they assemble only the frames in Africa.
Okay, but sorry, when you say build the bikes in Germany, but the final product is coming out of where it's rideable is where? In Ghana?
Germany.
Oh, okay, got it. So to get the final product, you have to go to Germany. Got it. I understand.
Yes.
Okay.
What else did I do?
So okay,
Some
so
mountaineering.
then you went to Ghana with this bamboo bicycle. I can't even imagine what a bamboo bicycle looks like. I guess it just looks like out of wood, except the fact that there's got to be the chain metal thing, right? That has to be metal, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Like the handlebar and the fork, they were carbon and the rest was bamboo. Right. And then the wheels are regular wheels.
Is it
seat
super
regular
lightweight?
seat.
Is it super lightweight?
It's the opposite.
Oh, okay. Got it.
I mean, I know bamboo is like, oh my God, it's so light.
Right,
but compare it to modern carbon fiber frames.
Yeah, of course.
It's
right.
wow.
Because otherwise Lance Armstrong would be using bamboo.
Yes. So yeah, it's the heaviest bike I own.
Right. Oh, you still have it?
Yes.
How many bikes do you
still have 5 at the moment.
Wow.
Which is like half of them.
Wow. Okay. So, and along the way, you never got your bike stolen?
I did.
Okay, good.
It's a wonderful story.
Go for it.
20-year-old me starts towards Africa. First day rain, third day rain, second day also rain, fourth day bike got stolen in Frankfurt.
Well, that'll teach you to get out of the house. You're like,
yes.
I should wait until sunny weather.
And the insurance maybe will pay 500 euros for it, which was nowhere near its price. So what I did was I buy a used bike for $100 at the next corner. I kept going with like a really crappy bike till Israel. And in Israel, I stayed with the owner of a bike shop, like the last big bike shop before Africa in Elat. And with him together, I built another bike custom made for Africa, and I bought it for 400 euros. So
Wow.
I invested the 500 euros well. And the funny thing is, the the pedals I have on my bike right now, they are more expensive than the bicycle I rode through Africa. It's a big change in quality over the years.
Wow. Amazing. Um, so you got the bike stolen in
Yes.
Frankfurt. Now,
Yes.
how did that happen? Because it was a fucking expensive bike. So did you just like park it somewhere overnight and somebody came in and stole it? How did they actually steal it?
I went to the museum. There was a Caravaggio exhibition, and I locked the bike outside. And then when I came out, it was gone.
So this was during the
No,
daytime.
yes.
Huh. I imagine you had like some really kick-ass lock, no?
It was a good lock. I don't know how it happened.
Huh. Wow.
They must have liked the bike. And there was a video camera right on it from the museum security. So I went to them. They're like, hey, you recorded it. They're like, no, we just film it. We don't record. It's like, come on, guys. So,
Very useful. I'm sure they fixed
and
that
that,
by now.
no, and then, no, it's just so that the security can see multiple places at once, but they don't record what actually happens.
Right.
And then I went to the police and it's like, hey, my bicycle was stolen. They're like, yeah, whatever, we don't care. It's like,
But
no,
it's a
I was
really
going to ride to Africa.
exactly. And it was a really expensive bicycle.
Yes,
And they said, "Here's some bamboo. Just make yourself a fucking bike."
yes, take a unicycle.
Exactly. Next time, nobody will steal that, I guess. Yeah, so
Yeah.
they told you just go to Israel and buy a bike there. They're cheaper.
Oh yeah, I did that.
And so you took their advice. Yeah, exactly. Okay, and so now bring us a little bit up to speed. In the last few years, you've kind of changed your focus into saying, okay, because you've visited over 150 countries and you realize biking to Vanuatu and to Hawaii is not very efficient. I mean,
Yes, something like that. Like
how
about
many like proper countries do you have like that are attached to big continents that are still left that are not island nations?
15, I think.
15. Okay. And where are they, mostly in Africa or Asia?
There is Afghanistan, Pakistan, Yemen, Saudi Arabia, and Iraq in Asia,
Okay.
and the rest is Africa.
Got it. And the Africa ones, are they in West Africa?
West Africa
Okay.
and Algeria and Libya. Because after the Arab Spring, it became a little bit harder to do a Libyan visa.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, definitely. I tried multiple times to get that Libyan visa when I was in Africa, and each time they discouraged me. There's a way you can do it. You have to go there on a business thing and blah blah blah. And I was just like, you know what?
Yeah, 300 euro business visa.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, exactly. And so I was just like, you know what? I don't really need to push myself through this situation and take a bus across Libya, the northern part of Libya, because I was just like, there's checkpoints. There's a lot of checkpoints. It's a big country, so I'm just going to be frustrated there. So I decided, screw it, because I'd already climbed the tallest mountain in Libya, which is near the Chad border.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, I don't really.
So you crossed the border illegally.
Correct. Yeah. There's nothing, there's no checkpoint there. It's zero. I mean, it's open
Yeah.
Sahara. It's deep desert Sahara there.
Yes.
So even if I wanted to present my passport to somebody, I couldn't. There's just nobody there.
Yeah.
At least not that I know of. I'd be a mad. Yeah. I don't think there is. Okay. So there's 15 countries that are connected to big things, and then the rest are these island nations, I imagine.
Yeah, I think about 30, 35-ish.
Island nations. Okay.
Yes.
So instead of staying on track to complete what I imagine is one of your dreams, which is to visit those remaining countries, you've
Yes.
kind of changed your focus a bit. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I kind of settled down a little bit. When I was 29 and 30, I thought, hey, I'm getting old. I'm having my midlife crisis now. I settled down in Germany.
Yes, because you will
And
die at 60.
45, I think.
Okay, 45. Okay, so you're
So,
late for your
sorry.
midlife crisis is 30 already. You're more than halfway
Oh
through.
yeah. True, that was very little of you. Well done.
Exactly.
Um,
I'm good at math.
yes. I tried out different types of sports like rafting, like long distance hiking, paragliding, mountaineering, and I tried to find like a new goal, a new hobby to keep me entertained.
Right.
And I quite liked the mountaineering. And then I tested it a little bit at the Alps, at the Zugspitze and the Mont Blanc. And I thought, hey, I'm going to do a big project with the mountains because I'm used to big projects. And then I started looking into it, and it's all either winter ascent of K2 for $100,000, and I neither have the skill nor the sponsors nor the money for that. And I looked into the 7 summits, and while doing that, I realized no one had ever climbed the highest mountain in every country.
Correct. That's
And I do have a little bit of experience with going to every country, so
sure.
I thought you could combine that.
Yes.
Start over from scratch again, go to every country again.
Yes. Yes. It would be definitely okay. So that is this like official, or you're like just still in the toying around stage with this idea? Because it's a big fucking project. There's this one guy called Ginge. I don't know if you know. Have you ever heard of him? Ginge. Anyway, he's got a similar goal as that, as climbing the tallest mountain of every country. However, he's much older. How old are you right now?
32.
Right. So he's twice your age. And so I don't think he's done much of the Himalayas, which is really the big caboodle there. That's the tough part. Well, actually, I don't know if it's the tough part, but it's definitely one of
Yes
the
and
biggest.
no.
Yeah, exactly.
I researched all the mountains. I can definitely tell you which ones are the tough ones.
Yes. So tell me the top 5 that are on your list. Obviously K2 has got to be up there.
Yes. Then the highest one of India, Kanchenjunga.
Okay.
Then apart from the height
Is the Kanchenjunga one? I don't think, is it over 8,000 meters? Is it? No.
Yes, it is.
Is it? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Really? Kanchenjunga? And I've seen it written, but I've never actually heard it pronounced. And so, but I don't remember it being that hard, because I've read some books about the 8,000 meter peaks, the 14 peaks over 8,000 meters.
Yes.
Hey, your buddy, Reinhold Messner, he was the first guy to do it.
My buddy, he's not German. You know that.
I know he's Tyrolean, but he speaks German, kind of like a shitty version of German or something like that. But yeah, Reinhold Messner, the greatest.
He's such a weird guy. So weird.
Have you met him?
No, but I've been to all of his museums.
Okay, interesting. So for those, Rejoice and I actually got to meet him, of all places, in fucking Rwanda.
I think I saw that.
Okay, yes, okay, good. Yeah. So, I wasn't sure if you had seen that. So, I am. We're going to go climb the tallest mountain of Rwanda, which is about 4,500 meters, something like that, which is about 15,000 feet or more. Anyway, so we're planning to do that, and as usual, we're getting a late start, and we're going to do it as a day trip.
Yeah.
And we were sitting around there at like 8 or 9 a.m. and we still hadn't left. I'm like, this is really fucking stupid. But anyway, as we're dicking around and waiting around, there's a crowd of people kind of just like mingling around. And I look over and I recognize Reinhold Messner with his
Like
big,
the
shaggy
big hair
beard,
and everything.
big hair,
Yeah.
shaggy beard, and all this other stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, he hasn't changed that much, the dude, from like when he was 30. He's just gotten a few more gray hairs. And I recognize him pretty much instantly. And I go right up to him, and because nobody was really talking to him. He was just kind of wandering around, just aimlessly, like a disoriented old man. And I said to him, "Excuse me, are you Reinhold Messner?" And he's like, like, what? Was that an answer? He didn't really give me a clear answer, but kind of like he kind of nodded, sort of, and just grumbled and walked away. And then, and I told,
Wait, that's it?
and yeah, yeah. And so then I told Rejoice, who's my wife, I said, hey, that's Reinhold Messner. And I told her a little, and she's like, "Who the fuck is that guy?" And so I tell him a little bit about who Reinhold Messner is, and then she says, "Okay, great. I'm going to go get a selfie with him." So she goes and runs up, and she says, "Hi, excuse me, but can I take a picture with you?" And he was like,
I'm your
"Okay."
biggest fan.
Exactly right. And then he actually lets her take a selfie. And here's the best part, Patrick. He smiles in the photo.
Yes, of course.
Like, what the hell? He actually smiled. He actually looked like he's having a good time for once in his life. It's amazing. So, yeah, and that was my little Reinhold Messner story. But anyway, I love the guy to death. I admire him greatly. The guy is a phenomenal adventurer.
Do you
Anybody who
know,
go ahead.
sorry, do you know about the Sherpa who's right now climbing the 14 highest mountains? He's doing it in one season, like in half a year.
Oh my goodness. Is just a regular Sherpa from Nepal? I take it, who's just already had a ton of experience, I imagine.
Yes, but I mean, he's still pretty hardcore and
Yeah, obviously you have to
big
be.
project.
Yeah.
He is almost done now. Like a couple days ago, he summited K2.
Yeah, yeah. It's it's just a matter of just a matter of time for all these peaks to be done in a variety of ways. I'm just still waiting for somebody, and maybe it's already been done, but I don't think it has, for all the 14,000, sorry, 8,000 meter peaks that are over the 14 8,000 meter peaks. God, I can't speak English. Maybe we'll speak in German. Um, maybe not.
Okay, alles klar.
Ja,
Machen wir.
ja, sehr gut. Okay, so um, those 14 8,000 meter peaks that 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 they could be done in winter.
Oh, all of them.
Yeah, dude, that should be
Difficult.
no fucking way. Of course, dude, that would be really fucking hard. Eight
I mean, if you
thousand.
want a challenge, do Olympus Mons. Like, ask Elon Musk if he has a little bit of space in one of his shuttles. And
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, yeah,
like a
yeah, yeah,
21-kilometer high mountain.
yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
pretty cool.
So those who didn't catch the reference, Olympus Mons is the tallest mountain in the solar system.
That's true.
Yeah. And it's sitting there in Mars.
I Sorry, I mean, we do have to go to the astrophysics at some point, right?
Oh, right. This is your other part of your life. We were going to talk about nuclear physics, I told him.
Yes.
Plasma physics. Here we go. So, okay. So, God, we got sidetracked. Okay. So you've changed your objective. But now, obviously, the two goals of the mountaineering goal, Patrick, and
Yes.
the other goal of just finishing visiting all these countries or maybe potentially biking through some of them, they're not mutually exclusive.
That's correct.
So, how are you looking down the pipe? How are you deciding? Because seems to me the most efficient thing is to then go to Afghanistan and climb the tallest peak of Afghanistan, which, by the way, must be a really hard peak.
Yes, it is. So the idea was, okay, I'm gonna try this out, and I spent 1 year training and reading up on it and testing it. That went well, and then I invested 1 year already going around Europe, climbing 35 now, uh, the highest mountains of 35 countries. And once I've done Europe, I have a little bit of a portfolio for sponsors for a company so that I could approach someone and say, hey, this is the project I have. I'm not a total beginner. Would
Right.
you like to work with me on this? And then repeat it for another continent. Obviously, it would make a lot of sense to do all the island states that I've been missing so far. On the other hand, the islands don't really have that high mountains. So if
Right.
I if I tell a sponsor, yeah, I'm gonna go mountaineering with your money and then climb on the 5 meter high hill on Vinoy and you know
But there is one tallest peak. Again, I got to look this up. Maybe I'll geek out for a second. But there's
the
a tall.
furthest point from the equator, from the Earth's core.
No, no. There's a mountain in somewhere in the Pacific
Yes.
that is a tallest mountain of some country that had, I think, never been climbed. I could be wrong about that.
Yes.
Um,
The only highest mountain of a country that hasn't been climbed is in Bhutan because it's illegal.
okay.
All the others are fine. They're good.
Okay. Okay. So nobody in history has climbed this thing?
No.
Really? Huh. Really? Nobody's
Yeah.
nobody's climbed in Bhutan?
Yeah. It's
Really?
illegal.
So it's kind of like Everest was back in, like, as far as Tibet. Tibet was closed off to foreigners.
Well, I'm sure you're aware that the Bhutan visa applications are like $200 a day,
Yeah, I didn't know
right?
exactly that price, but yeah, it doesn't
Okay,
surprise me.
so the country is very much against mass tourism, and they want very
Right.
regulated, short-term,
Yes.
small groups, and they outlawed mountaineering in its entirety, not just on that mountain, but everywhere.
Got it. Got it. Okay.
They don't want dead Western tourists like in Nepal littering the countryside.
Got it. Okay. I understand. Okay, so Ginge, by the way, that guy, I just pulled up his Wikipedia page, Patrick, and he has, according to his Wikipedia page, claims to have climbed 168 country high points, so quite a few. He's this is the guy who's twice your age.
Okay.
And
I only know about Morgan Everett, like the priest from Australia who's done a similar amount of mountains.
okay. So this guy and the tallest peak of Bangladesh, how is that one? Do you remember?
Um,
Not really.
Bangladesh,
Yeah.
that was very close to the Burmese border, and it was kind of unknown till a couple of years ago when someone climbed it.
Okay. Yeah.
Like there was a Westerner who discovered it, that I know,
Okay.
and he has been on the summit.
Okay.
I
So
don't know if it's the same guy.
okay. Yeah, he's the British guy. This Ginge guy.
He's written Gin.
Ginge.
Okay.
Yeah. So the only reason I know about him is that he had gone to Africa to climb the tallest peaks, and so he was the first person to document clearly how the peak to go up, the one on Libya, the
Oh,
tallest mountain of Libya.
yeah, I know him.
Yeah,
I didn't recognize because Ginge is like his middle name.
it's his nickname really. It's not his real name is I forgot.
Eamon Fuller.
Yeah, Edmund, Edmund
Yeah.
or whatever Fuller. Yes, thank you.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, I know about him. Sorry.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay, okay,
I
okay.
do.
Yeah, so he and Ginge is just his nickname. It's not even. I don't think it's even his legal name.
Okay.
But there's a story, and there was a mountain that he climbed somewhere in the Pacific, if I remember correctly, that took him and his crew. And he wasn't even the lead guy. I think there was another leader in this thing. It's a really good article, and I can't remember where I read about it, but it's a really hard mountain. It just doesn't make any sense to me because it's not like, I don't think it's even above 4,000 meters. And I think it's like 3,000 something. And it's somewhere in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. If I remember correctly. Anyway, you should research it. And apparently it just took so long to climb this really silly peak. And there was like three peaks and they had to go to, or two or three summits that they didn't know which one is the true summit. So they had to go to both of them. And the guy who was actually leading the expedition in the end I think he either got injured or he just gave out on exhaustion and did not go to the actual summit in the end. That's the sad story behind that mountain. But anyway, since I know you're doing a lot of research on this, that one is one of the more fascinating ones because it is but again, I could be wrong that it may not be the highest peak of a country. Maybe it's just an unclimbed peak or something like that.
And you're sure it's over 3,000
No, I'm
meters?
not. No, I'm not sure. No, I'm not sure. It could be just 2,000 or something like that. But I think, yeah, it could just be 2,000. I can't remember how tall it was. But I just couldn't believe that it was like some relatively small mountain and that it would take weeks weeks to climb. I was like, really? Are you kidding me? And you can see it from the pictures, like the Pacific Ocean surrounding it or the water surrounding it. I just don't. Anyway.
A lot of bushwhacking.
Exactly. That's what it is. It's bushwhacking, and it's quite steep in certain sections, so you have to like do ropes, and it's muddy, it's slippery, and it's just a slog. But still, despite all that, I just still don't understand why it should take so long. But obviously, I wasn't there, so what do I know?
Yeah. You can Google Sao Tome and Principe. They have like a rock needle. It's luckily not the highest one, but this rock needle has only been climbed like twice.
Oh, I know.
It's so horrible.
Yes. It's only 600 meters or something like that, 650 meters.
Yeah, and apparently very dangerous due to snakes that live in the rock.
Interesting. I didn't know about that part. I did know that it was kind of a very crumbly kind of rock.
Yeah, well, and apparently full of wildlife that doesn't like people.
Okay. So there you go. Don't climb it. Yeah, there are so many like of peaks. Everybody gets impressed by Mount Everest, but there are so many other mountains that are harder than Everest to climb.
Yes.
So getting back to Afghanistan. So the tallest mountain of Afghanistan is what?
I would have to.
Okay, you don't have to look it up, but anyway, you just know that it's a difficult mountain.
Yeah, the Noshak. It's like 7,500.
Okay.
So
yeah, that's got to be hard, and then of course the big challenge for so many of these mountains is just logistics of getting the permits. I imagine Saudi Arabia is not too easy to give you a permit, although apparently they're opening up tourism a little bit. At least
yes,
they try.
also the mountain is very easy. It's like a 2-kilometer hike from the road.
Oh, great.
For Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, so that's a perfect example of something I ran into a lot in Africa. The mountain itself is super climbable, easy, kind of like just a walk up a hill. It takes you a few hours. And yet getting to the base, convincing the village chief, getting the permit, getting the visa, getting the whatever.
Yes.
That's the true nightmare. And then when you're finally there, you're like, okay, up and down, goodbye.
Yes, so, I'm familiar with that.
Exactly. But something that you probably never had to deal with when you were at least doing the European ones.
No, in Europe I only need one visa for Belarus.
Right. How is that mountain, by the way?
It's a 400-meter high hill in a village.
Okay. Where is it? Near the Polish border?
It's about 150 km from Vilnius, from Lithuania.
Lithuania, okay, yeah. And what did you learn from... Okay, so Europe, I think, has some 45 countries, depending on how do you define Europe.
Yes.
So which ones are the ones that are remaining? You said you did about 35 or so.
Yes, I do still have Denmark, Finland, Norway, Sweden, and Belarus, like the north.
Okay.
And 2 in the Alps, Switzerland and Austria, the highest points. I'm here right now for them, but the weather is quite crappy, so I can't.
Oh, that's why you're there. Okay.
Yes. And then, what was it? Cyprus and the Azores, because they have the highest mountain of Portugal.
Okay, got it.
That's it.
Oh, the Azuri Mountains, the tallest mountain. Oh, I get it. And how do you deal with, let's say, like Greenland, for example? I don't know if Denmark, because Denmark doesn't really have much of a mountain, I imagine, but Greenland is part of Denmark, right? Officially.
Yes. So that's again.
Is that their tallest peak? Where's their tallest peak of Denmark? Do you know?
The tallest peak of Denmark is the Møllejoch near Aarhus. It's 170 meters.
That's in Denmark. That's in Europe?
Yes, that's in Denmark proper. If you count Greenland as well, it's Gunnbjørnsfjeld, which is the highest mountain in the Arctic. Okay. It's in the middle of nowhere. You can do an expedition with RMI Expeditions for only $21,000.
Oh, that's cheap.
Yes.
So maybe that's your way of making, if you don't get enough sponsors, then what you should do is just have an expedition. In other words, say, come with me.
I guide other people, yeah.
Exactly right. I'll charge you $21,000 to come up with me up this peak that I've never been up.
Okay. You would do that? I can guide you.
Okay, great. I'm signing up right now. Where do I transfer the money? PayPal. But why not? But shouldn't Denmark's mountain be considered Greenland? To be technical about this stuff,
If you want to be technical, Greenland is
because it's
not Denmark. It's just governed by, but it's independent.
right,
It's like Jersey and
but
Guernsey and the Isle of Man and
right, but it's but
Gibraltar.
so wait, so okay, let me ask you a different question. Are you going to be climbing that tallest peak of Greenland, or would
I
that?
hope so.
Okay, so you would consider that its separate country, if you will, in
I
your
do usually go by
definition.
the United Nations,
Right, but
and
Greenland's
according
not
to
part.
them, Greenland's not on there.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. So therefore, if you're going to go by the United Nations, then you got to consider Greenland's tallest peak as Denmark's tallest peak.
You could. If I had the option, I would do both.
Okay. Okay.
For example, in the case of the Netherlands, they have the 300-meter high hill in the Netherlands, and they have a volcano in the Caribbean on one of their islands on Saba. And I definitely want to do both.
Right.
The same for Portugal and Spain, because the Canaries, for example, have the highest mountain of Spain, but technically they are African islands. So
Right. Right. Yeah.
just to be sure, I do both.
Exactly. I had the same dilemma when I was climbing the tallest mountains of Africa. I was in trying to figure out which is the tallest mountain of Egypt, and the simple answer is the Mount Catherine, which is
Catherine, yes.
right in the Sinai. But then the Sinai Peninsula is in Asia.
Yeah, well,
So I was like, okay, but then technically I got to climb the tallest mountain of every African country.
it's still right. Yeah.
It is right, but just to be safe, what I did is I went to figure out what's the tallest mountain of Egypt in mainland Africa, in the continent
Yes.
of Africa.
Which,
And
what is it?
it's this. I can't remember the name of it, but it's near the east coast, near kind of like the Red Sea ish, and
Like
yeah, near the Red Sea.
Nueva?
I can't remember the towns. There's Gardaya. What the hell is this place called? No, that's Algeria. Anyway, I don't remember the name. It's a 2,000-meter mountain, but pretty.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of challenging. I mean, certainly a lot harder than Mount Catherine, which is I think 3,000 something meters.
Which has a hiking trail. Yeah, I've been up there.
Yeah, exactly. So it's pretty. Mount Catherine is just a walk, but the one in Egypt, in the mainland Africa, was there was one funny section. There's no real official trail at all, so you just kind of figure it out. And the way we happened to take on the way up, there was a place that we had to squeeze in, and my guide was just a bit bigger than me, slightly, and he couldn't squeeze through this place where you had to squeeze through. It took him like 15 minutes where he finally did. He didn't even come to the summit. He was just like exhausted. He was just like, screw this.
Oh.
He had never done it. He'd never been on that mountain himself, but I just thought.
But he was your guide. Yeah, great.
Of course, yeah. No, that happens all the time. But he was important in the sense that, A, for safety reasons, in case I twisted my ankle up there, but also the fact that you need to take a car to get to the base. You don't need to take a car, but you're going to spend a lot of time trekking through the desert with a lot of water if you don't take a car to get to the base.
Yes. Like getting to the base of the mountains here has been more difficult than getting up the mountains because I still cycle most of the way.
Really?
Yes, I did most of the trip here in Europe as well by bike, and I racked up so many altitude meters by bike. It's ridiculous.
Of course. I mean, the one advantage, I suppose, Patrick, is that you stay in shape. That's the good news. No, it's like, but seriously, there's a problem when you go on these 8,000-meter peaks. Not that I've ever done one, but that people just lounge around for weeks as they're acclimatizing and that kind of stuff, and your muscles get soft, and you just like, or people who just like, you have to stay in shape. So I mean, that's one good benefit of doing it. But yeah, but I imagine for how you're going to deal with. Okay, so where you're focusing next? In other words, do you want to finish off Europe, or do you want to go off to Asia or Africa, or you're just kind of scattershot?
Well, right now I wanted to do the Alps, the two remaining ones here, but the weather is so bad that I think about going to Scandinavia next week.
But why don't you just stick around? The weather's not going to be bad forever. It's summertime right now as we're recording this.
Because I have a limited time window, and I'd rather go to Scandinavia and do something, and then when I'm coming back, the weather gets better. Um,
But
Also,
you're gonna
after
bike up to Scandinavia.
I'm gonna fly to Tromsø and then bike down.
Got it. And then, so when you go to Trump, which is in northern
Tromsø,
Trumps or whatever it's called, yes,
yeah.
it's you're gonna rent a bike.
I would take my bike with me.
Oh, on the plane. Okay, got it.
Yes.
Okay, got it. How
I also
expensive
have a
is it?
folding bike.
You oh, okay, but you wouldn't take the folding bike.
That would be mildly insane, so I
Okay.
might, but I'm not sure yet.
Mildly insane, so I might, because that's exactly what I am.
I did do the highest mountain Slovenia and Liechtenstein with the
Patrick,
folding
Patrick,
bike.
Patrick, Patrick. Let me tell you something. You're not mildly insane. You're completely fucking insane. Just between friends.
No, if I were, I would be dead by now. I'm well prepared for my trips.
That's true. That's true. That's true. Okay. Do you ever actually? When have you actually worried about your safety, life, and that kind of stuff? Where you gotten kind of a bit too close for comfort? Because that's probably happened a few times.
Well, usually I count 3 occurrences. Now I could make it 4. So I did get robbed at gunpoint in Lebanon by I assume, Syrian or Lebanese soldier. Dengue fever in Indonesia was great. I do have a nifty scar from a crocodile bite from Mozambique. And I was so stupid, I decided to climb mountains. I do them a lot at night because then you get to the summit for sunrise.
Right.
And the hardest one in Europe of the highest mountains is in Slovakia, the Gerlach I think it's called in their language. And it's only allowed if you're a member of the mountaineering club or with a guide. So I went at night without a guide, of course. There's no route, no markings, and it took 8 hours to climb up there. And that was after I've already done 150 Ks by bike. And so I cycled all day, and then at 10 o'clock in the evening, I started climbing. At 6 o'clock in the morning, I was back down. And that one was a bit sketchy. And if I would have known the difficulty, I would not have done it in the dark.
Okay, but then how would have that made it any much easier as far as, I mean, since you still bike there and so you're pretty exhausted already just from the biking itself, you would have just like rested up the night?
The biking wasn't that problematic, but the route finding,
Okay,
like
so
there
you would
was
have had
no
the advantage of
trail.
just being able to see what the hell you're doing.
Yes,
Right.
because I was following a GPS trail, but in the mountains it's like plus minus 10 meters,
Yeah.
and sometimes I had just a vertical straight wall that I had to climb, like free
Right.
solo, no safety, and in the middle of the night just to get back to the GPS trail.
Yeah, exactly.
That was quite stupid. One time I accidentally climbed up to the ridge. So you climb, and suddenly your hands go nowhere, and you look over, and there's just blackness as far as you can look
Right.
because the light can't shine that far. It's like, oh, great.
I'm on
And
the
it
ridge.
was a razor sharp ridge like this.
Yeah.
So you couldn't walk over it. I could only climb down, or I could climb on the other side down, and that were my 2 options. Yeah, that wasn't so smart.
So keep that in mind when you go to Afghanistan.
Yes.
Um, and yeah, that climbing at night is a challenge. And yeah, especially if you've never been up there before in your life,
I mean, I
it's
do
challenging.
like it. I do it a lot, especially at the popular mountains because it's empty and then
Yeah,
you
of
have a
course.
beautiful scenery on the sunrise. And as soon as the first other guy comes up, you can say, okay, I'm done. And then you
Yeah,
hike
sure.
back down.
Yeah, sure.
Like you have been on Mount Catherine, you know how many people are up there.
Actually, when I went up there, there was not a single human being. The whole, either up or down, and I just went in the middle of the day. So I don't know what it was that I was. I think it's because maybe Egypt is when I went, which was just about a year or more ago. It was I think 2017 or something like that. It was just not that popular. So maybe that was it.
Okay.
Because
I had, sorry,
no, when
please
did you go?
continue.
When did you go?
I did go there like many, many years ago when I was 19.
Okay, so that's
Um,
why. Back then, Egypt
but there
was a
were,
popular destination.
yeah, but there were tour groups from Sharm el Sheikh with buses coming there. There were hundreds of people on the summit. It
Sharm el
was
Sheikh.
ridiculous.
That's the. So when you take Sharm el Sheikh, there's a ferry that goes across the Red Sea there, that ferry takes you kind of close to that mountain I was talking about earlier in Egypt, the tallest one in Africa.
To Hurghada.
Hurghada.
Anyway,
Thank you. Yeah, it's
yeah.
Hurghada. That's right. Thank you.
Okay.
Hurghada. And Hurghada, from there, you have to drive another, I don't know, maybe 50 kilometers or something like that,
Okay.
to get more inland. You have to, and then that gets you close to that mountain. But
See,
anyway,
my geography teacher taught me something.
he certainly did. He taught you how to get your ass off and go explore. He should be very proud of you, Patrick.
Yeah.
But you don't keep in touch with them often.
No, I don't. Not for years.
Okay, yeah. Well, you should. You should. I mean, to me, I think if you're a teacher, it's something proud that you all of a sudden, you teach all these idiots, and most of them go nowhere, and then finally you get like one person who actually listened to what the fuck you were saying. And that's a satisfying feeling for a teacher. I just think if they just
Okay.
know that they have one success story out of their, dozens of, hundreds of people that they teach, and they really impacted their life in a major way, I think that one success story will make a teacher say, that was all worth it. All those stupid teenagers I had to deal with, all those assholes who didn't do their homework, that's worth it. There you go.
Well, thank you.
So yeah, no, because
So yeah,
he clearly influenced you in a major way, more
Yeah,
so than
so
more so than even your parents did in some ways, in some respect, because your parents didn't seem
well,
to
I
like.
don't think the geography teacher gave me the idea. I just came to him to ask him for help
Right.
because he
Okay.
seemed
Fair
like
enough.
a
So if he didn't
good person.
exist, maybe, but I think he kind of pushed you along, I suppose.
Okay.
Maybe not. Obviously you would have figured it out one way or another if he says, "Fuck, I don't know the capital of Turkey."
Yes.
You
I
would say,
bet you
"Okay."
do.
Well, then you would have said, "Well, I'm going to get a better geography teacher. I'm going to go
Yeah.
I'm going to go somewhere else to get the answers." But anyway,
Anyway,
so are there any
you were,
big
hmm?
influences on your life, by the way? Any
um,
particular explorers, maybe of the old days, people from that you admire in the 19th century or before that? What's that?
um,
What about that guy, that dude? He's a Muslim guy. What's his name? The guy who traveled a lot. I don't know. I can't remember his name.
I
Ibrahim,
know who you mean.
Ibrahim,
Um,
Ibra something. Anyway, he was a guy in like the heyday of Islam when the Muslims ruled the world. He traveled through much of the Muslim world, like all.
yeah, I know who you mean. Ibn
Ibrahim.
Battuta?
Thank you. That's it. Ibn Battuta. Thank you, Google.
Yes. No, yes, true. I've been to the Ibn Battuta Mall in Dubai. It's designed after his travels, like every room is one of the countries he visited, something
Yeah.
like
So
that.
so he's
It's
a
weird.
he's a guy I admire. And of course, a lot of people say Marco Polo. But do you have any people that you kind of look as your? No, not really.
No,
Okay.
I don't.
All right.
Like, people always tell me, like, oh yeah, you should read this and this book by this and this adventurer and cyclist and what and not. And I was like, no, why? I'm doing this myself.
Yeah,
Like, I
sure,
don't
sure.
need to read it.
Yeah, no, you obviously have plenty of motivation. You don't need anybody to kick you in the pants to like get out there and go do something with your life. Okay, so a lot of people are listening to this at this point, and I know everybody. I don't even like to. That's not that I don't like to ask this question, but I just know a lot of people will want to know the answer. Like,
Money.
thank you. So go ahead.
Yes, please give me
Let's
your money. No,
exactly.
I did save the money as a student because I was playing Magic the Gathering, which is a collectible card game, and I
I
played it
know
on
Magic. Yeah,
tournaments.
I know. I used to play Dungeons and
Yes,
Dragons. In fact, occasionally, if I can,
that's
I can still play
awesome.
Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I did sell my card collection, and I did save the money from the military service, and that was my first round the world trip. And then I decided to go camping and cycling because it's so much cheaper.
Correct.
Then there was a website that my ex-girlfriend, who was a web designer as well, made, and we started asking for sponsorship. So we got free equipment, free bikes, and so forth.
What website was this?
That was Cycle Nomads and later World Bicyclist.
Okay.
And I
Do you
occasionally do,
still use that website?
yeah, till a few years ago, till I started with the mountaineering, because it's really about mountains and I can't put it on a website about cycling.
Right.
Um, then odd jobs here and there. I did have a free space in Germany where I could store my things, so I didn't have any costs there. Right now,
Your five bicycles.
yes, and
Right.
my 100 kilos of outdoor equipment.
Right.
I did do a bit of writing, photography, programming. Right now, I'm hired by a Canadian company to work on a game called Dwarf Fortress, which is coming to Steam at some point. So I can do work from the laptop
Okay.
as I see fit. And for this winter, the bamboo company from Kiel, they work together with a book company. They want me to cycle from Kiel to Ghana, like from their sales spot to their manufacturing spot for 5,000 euros and free bike and equipment and a percentage of the book that will be about that tour. So yeah, I made my hobby my profession.
Right. Right. And now are you at a point where you want to kind of make it more of your profession than before? Because it seems to me, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe I'm not, maybe I wasn't being careful enough to follow you more closely, but it seems to me that most of the stuff you've done in your life, you've done it kind of like on your own, under the radar, not like doing a big social media campaign and that kind of stuff. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not, how should I say this? If you are in normal society and you talk about your 1 year round the world trip and how you cycle through Siberia and wrestle with a crocodile, then it's bragging. That's nothing else but, making yourself look great.
Right.
And I'm not the biggest fan of that.
Right.
And I don't use social media except for self-promotion in terms of sponsorships. So
Right.
there is a sponsor and he says there must be something about the tour, so I do a little bit. But if you would look at my private Facebook account, you will see that there is no activity whatsoever.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
only
Right.
to
And
keep in contact with people.
right. And this is what I've find a lot, and I don't know what the ratio is, and maybe you have a guess of what the ratio is to the kind of influencer, narcissistic promoters, kind of like me, who just go out there and yell and scream and go, "Hey, look at me! Look at me! Look at me!" And how many of for every one of Francis's that are out there, how many more Patricks, or like there's a guy, I don't know if you heard that podcast, I interviewed a guy named Sim Blanchard. He was a
Nope.
65-year-old adventurer. It actually was my most popular podcast of all, most listens. And he's this guy you would never, like, you shook your head, you're like, no, I don't, never heard of Sim. And nobody had
Yeah.
ever heard of Sim, really. But he's done so many crazy things. Not as crazy as you, but still, just he's lived such an adventurous, fun, interesting, fascinating life. And yet nobody's heard of him. And there's and so obviously there's more people out there just quietly going around doing some crazy shit that nobody ever hears about. And then there's the Reinhold Messners and whatever,
Yes.
other people who are just like have a loud horn and talk about all their crazy stuff. Reinhold Messner, okay, that's not a very good example because he
He
really,
actually did really good stuff.
exactly, exactly,
Yeah.
he really actually did fucking amazing
Like,
stuff.
okay, let's give an example. Just recently, when I was doing the highest point on Malta, I stayed in a hostel, and that person told me about, oh yeah, you're traveling so much. Do you know Nas Daily? I was
Oh
like,
yes,
no,
Nas Daily,
who's
that's right.
Nas Daily? Like,
I
I never heard of him.
I had
And
not heard
then,
of him either until just less than a year ago when finally said, "Really? You're a traveler, Francis?" Somebody told me, "You're a traveler and you don't know Nas Daily? You consider yourself a traveler and you're like, you don't know Nas Daily?" I was like, "I've never heard of this guy. Come on, he's
yes,
got millions of followers." I'm like, "I had no idea who this Nas Daily. I've
yeah,
been out."
who cares? But the point is, the guy, what he did was very difficult, but because of the production value, like he did a video every day and he spent countless hours doing this.
Yes.
And I rather do countless hours doing the outdoor thing that I like to do and not to promote it. There's one example from Germany that I usually use. There were these twins from Germany, the Hanse brothers. For their 30th birthday, they got together and cycled from Germany to Shanghai. And they made a book tour and talks, public speaking, and they became rather famous in Germany. and the tour lasted 4 months, and the promoting went on for about 2 years, and then they did another like 80-day around the world hitchhiking thing, and then they promoted that for another 1.5 years. So to me, the majority of what they do is they're entertainers, they're authors, but they're not travelers.
Right. Yeah, no, that's it. It is, and it is a dilemma that we all face. Now, there's an extreme version like those two twins, which spend more time promoting than they do actually traveling.
Yeah.
But we all face that kind of ratio balance of how much time do I want to spend. Now, if you have now a lot of money, then because obviously most people, I shouldn't say that. I don't know what the answer is. I think probably the majority. Actually, I don't know if it's the majority. I really don't know. But a lot of people do the promotion stuff not because they're so into their ego and so fucking narcissistic that they need the public adulation and public worship. They do it mainly for economic reasons. In other words, I just need to pay my fucking bills. I need to pay for my trips, and so
Yes,
therefore it's just a utilitarian thing. And therefore I need to speak up about this shit because otherwise I can't do it. And then the pain of doing promotion is less than the pain of not doing my trip.
yes, I do understand this. But usually this kind of promotion nets less money than working a normal regular job, I think, at least in the first world.
Correct. Yes, that is often the case. But there are certain careers, it's changing now, but there are certain careers that don't give you enough flexibility. In other words, it's kind of like if they get frowned upon whether you're like changing jobs changing companies every year.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So some jobs, let's say like programming or consulting or that kind of stuff, it's okay that you work for 3 months or 8 months and then leave and then do another gig. But certain things, like say being a nurse or a doctor, maybe I don't know, or a lawyer or something like that, you can earn a lot of money, but it's just not cool to like, okay, I'm a lawyer for a year and now I'm not going to be a lawyer anymore.
Yeah, you quit, then you quit for real,
Right.
because
And,
then
and same
you're,
thing with like being an accountant. If you have clients, you're like, okay, I'm not going to do your accounting this year, but I'll do your taxes next year. Because this year I'm going to Antarctica. It's
that is expensive. I mean,
right. So there's certain professions that are more open to allowing you to get this kind of income to let you go off and travel for some more time.
yes, but all the travelers, they can pick their profession. Like they are not accountants that start self-promoting and then traveling.
Right. Right.
Um,
But some people they figure it out late in the game. In other words, some people they need to go through a divorce and they need to go through raising their children, and all of a sudden they realize, okay, shit. But by then they've already established themselves as their career.
oh yeah, true. Yeah.
And they're like, okay, in your case, you started off early and you realized early. But I think more often than not, people just get off their little trip. They go to Southeast Asia. They have their little fun. They do their around the world, and then they have a real job, and then they kind of get stuck, and then they get their second wind after their divorce or after they get retired or whatever they do. And that's when all of a sudden they say, okay, now I'm going to go out there and travel again. But by then they're in a different space in their life.
Yes,
It's
true.
difficult. But I agree with you with one big thing that you said. One of the things is just this idea that in the first world countries, or whatever you want to call it, the rich high income countries, the best thing to do is to live cheaply and make a ton of money in a short amount of time. And
Yeah.
it's relatively easy to do. It's not that hard. A lot of people say like, oh yes it is, but you can make like 30,000 euros, 50,000 euros in a year. And if you have a way to live below your means, you can save up 10,000 euros.
Yeah, I mean, I met a guy doing English teaching in Korea and Japan, and he can save 10,000 in a year, and he had no training as a teacher. Like anyone can go there and do a TEFL course, like teaching English and foreign languages, and then go there.
Right. Right. Yeah. So there's definitely ways to do it. So you're going to just keep going at this. So what percentage, like you're in your 30s now, And what percentage of your 30s did you actually were focused on working versus traveling?
Well, I only do work on projects that I enjoy. Sometimes they produce money, sometimes they don't.
Mhm.
So right now it's about half half, but I saved up money. So from now on, like 3 months ago, I started again with traveling. So it will be just traveling now, like Europe, then Africa with the bike tour for the. Do you consider this work? If I say, yeah, I'm gonna ride the bicycle for you from Kiel to Ghana and climb some mountains in Morocco and Sierra Leone on the way? Because that is what I would do for work and I would get paid for it.
Oh, if you get your sponsorships, you mean?
Yes.
Right. Of course, you're right. No, I think I define work as something that you do and you're not too thrilled about doing it. To me, that's work.
Oh, yeah, I had 0% of that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I would just say stuff that you're not like excited to do in the morning. To me, like I write books and that kind of stuff, but I don't really consider it too much work just because it's like I enjoy writing.
Yeah, yeah,
So
that's
it's
how I
fun.
enjoy the programming for the
Yeah.
video game.
Yeah. Yeah. Like what I don't enjoy is I don't enjoy looking for sponsors. I don't enjoy um, having to, like look for places to do public speaking or that kind of stuff. If somebody just calls me up and say, "Hey, Francis, can you come speak?" I'm like, "Great,"
Hmm.
and that's enjoy. I may not enjoy going to the location, maybe for some reason, going to some airline or that doesn't feel comfortable, whatever. But once I'm giving the talk, giving the speech, I'm having a great time. So,
Hmm.
but there's certain parts of the process in order to get to that speech or to get to those uh, types of activities that may not be so much fun. But it sounds like you've tightly managed your life in a way that you don't waste a whole lot of your life doing things you don't enjoy.
Yes, yeah, that's true. My idea is the worst case that happens to me is that I'm uneducated and jobless in Germany, in a first world country with a good social net. So
Right,
even the worst thing that can happen to me is still better than what most people have worldwide.
right.
And I rather travel and do the crazy things now in my 20s and 30s than do it in my 60s and 70s or 80s when I'm retired and when other people usually do it here in Germany. Because you're not that fit and young anymore.
Right. Yeah. No, and you see a lot of the Germans doing it. They rent these, like in Africa, you'll see them renting, they have their own amazing vehicles, like these RVs, these recreational vehicles, and they
Yeah.
have them decked out with the refrigerator and the this and the that, and they just drive from national park to national park. And there's nothing wrong with that, of course, but they're limited physically often from doing some of the things that they might like to do versus what you how how old would you like to live for if you had, like, is there a limit? Would you like to live 1 billion years?
Till the heat death of the universe. Yes.
Okay,
Thank
okay.
you.
The heat death. I thought it was going to be a cold death of the universe.
Yeah, but that's the name for it. Like when
Oh,
all the heat
really?
dissipates. Yeah.
And they call it the heat death, even though we're all going to be frozen.
Yes. Yes.
That makes no sense.
Because there will be no more heat. It's the death of the heat.
Oh, got it. Yeah, yeah. Okay, now I understand the term. Okay, heat death. When I hear heat death, I mean dying of heat.
Yes, I know.
But yeah, the death of heat.
Anyway,
Yes. Okay.
it
Yes.
would be amazing to live forever. Yeah.
For a trillion years. Okay, well, yes, unfortunately, we're probably not going to do that, but we
Not
can
with that
try.
attitude.
Exactly. But by the way, do you believe that there are other intelligent life out there? Like, sorry,
Uh,
technologically advanced civilizations out there.
sure. Um, I just always remember this one picture where they zoomed in with I think Hubble was it, on one little square, and it's like a billion galaxies in that one picture. And I mean, you know about the Fermi paradox and the Great Filter and everything about that.
Yes, I
So,
do.
yeah, there's probably some kind of reason why we never heard about them. But why shouldn't there be in trillions and trillions of stars?
I read this book. It's an old book. It's called Rare Earth, and By the way, do you do much reading, or how do you get your
Yes,
information? Do you have a
yes, I read.
Kindle? Are you a Kindle
Yes,
guy? Okay.
I do not have a Kindle at all.
Okay, he's showing me a
Holding
Kindle
it.
right now.
Yes, I love
So
that thing.
yeah. So what do you read? What percentage of the stuff you read is fiction versus nonfiction?
99% fiction.
Really? 99% fiction.
You
Wow. I'm like,
sound so surprised.
no, but just because, when you talk about so much your research, your nonfiction, your, like Fermi paradox or whatever, stuff like that, you would think that you would read. I'm the exact opposite. I'm the mirror image. I'm like 99% nonfiction.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I do read articles and like
Yeah.
Wikipedia and
Yeah.
online,
Of
but
course.
when
Right.
it comes to books, it's mostly fiction.
And do you read science fiction or historical fiction or what kind of fiction?
It's mostly fantasy and sci-fi.
Fantasy.
Like
Okay, good. Any
for me, it's
recommendations?
a ton, but that would kind of
Okay,
blow
like
up the
what?
podcast a little bit.
Just curious. My wife just was watching Game of Thrones. I told her not to do it, and of course she got addicted to it, and so she had to see all 8 seasons. For God's sakes.
Yes, it's fantastic. Except for the end, that was horrible. She can watch
Really?
The Witcher next.
I didn't ask her about the end because she just saw it yesterday, the last
Okay.
episode. So I didn't ask her like how bad it was. But anyway, not gonna do any spoilers here. Um, okay, and so your plan right now is to get some more sponsors and then do this trip to visit all these tall peaks. And
Kinda, yeah. I mean, it's a bit unrealistic. So I do have the money saved to do the islands. Like I can do a year or two on my own without sponsors, just to build up a portfolio. And let's say I aim for 100 now or 150. And this is something that I could realistically approach sponsors with and say, I can do this. Because if I go there now and tell them, yeah, my highest mountain has been an easy 6,000 in the Andes, and I want to climb K2, they will not take me very seriously.
right.
And I also don't have a solution to climb mountains, let's say like in Bhutan where it's illegal, or Yemen where there's a civil war. So I can't promise them I will climb all of them. That would
Right.
be a bit disingenuous to tell them, yeah, I will do this and then not do it. So
But
yeah,
but
right
but
now,
also you could. It comes down to the time frame. I mean, I think a low. It's highly likely that in the next 10 years, Yemen will have a moment of peace.
yes, true.
So as long as you put the time frame, I have a 10-year goal, for example,
It
of
is.
climbing all this. Yeah, exactly. No, it will take probably 10 years or more to climb all these peaks. I
It's
mean,
about 200 mountains, and I said if I take 1 week to climb one and 1 week to prepare it, then it's 2 weeks, 400 weeks for 200 mountains. That's 8 years
yeah.
with no breaks and
Right,
no
right, right.
disease, and
Right, right,
yeah,
right. Yeah, it's a big, big, big monumental project.
yes, that's what I like about it.
Yeah, yeah. No, I share your your interest in that. It would be, but of course I at this point. Well, actually, you never know. Nowadays, there's people going up Everest who are like 80 years old, so you never
But not
know.
on K2.
Yeah, K2. That's got to be a
Anyway,
tough one.
yeah, but you have done all the ones in Africa, right?
No, I haven't. There's four mountains I did not climb.
Darfur,
Darfur is one
right?
of them, yes.
Yeah,
Although I got to
Sudan.
the base, I got to the base of Darfur's mountain.
And
That
they wouldn't let
was
you hike or something like this.
no. I had at one point 50 military people with me, just protecting me and Rejoice.
Okay,
Eight eight vehicles. One of the vehicles had rocket launchers. I was like,
cool.
really? I think this is complete overkill. But anyway, I had 50 military men escorting me throughout Darfur, west, central, east, north,
Yeah.
south, Darfur, everything. That was crazy. The other
Okay,
one
the other
is
three?
the other three is Eritrea and Djibouti.
Okay.
For
How
Eritrea's,
come?
that's Eritrea's fault. Eritrea is just a kind of a hermit society, as you probably know,
Yes.
and so I made the mistake. Well, when I was in Sudan, in the capital of Sudan, Khartoum, I told the Eritrean council I said, hey,
Mm-hmm.
I want to go to Eritrea to climb the tallest mountain. He said, no problem. Just go to the Ministry of Tourism and tell them that that's what you want to do, and they'll let you go. I was like, okay, great. That sounds easy. So I just followed his orders. I went to the Ministry of Tourism and I told them I want to climb the tallest mountain, which was called, I forgot. You can probably tell me. But anyway, um, it's about a 3,000-meter mountain, I think it is. Anyway, and the Ministry of Tourism said, sure, just give us your passport and that kind of stuff, and we'll look into it. Like days went by, and I said, what's going on? What's going on? And they just basically stonewalled. They didn't answer the question. I even went to tried to talk to the minister herself twice,
Mm-hmm.
and or maybe three times. I called. Anyway. I did everything. In the end, they blocked that. So I said, "How about you let me go to the town that's near the tallest mountain? Like I just don't
Yes,
want to climb
yes.
the tallest mountain." And then they blocked that. I said, "How about if I go to a completely like to Massawa, which is in the completely wrong direction, which is the opposite direction?" No. So I like, "Is there any place in Djibouti? Sorry, Eritrea that I can go to?" They're like, "Really? Well, you can keep applying, but." So, and I had driven to the capital from Sudan. So I
Okay.
had to drive. So I obviously had to get out. So I was
Yes.
like, okay, so basically what you're telling me is the only place you're going to let me explore now is my way back to Sudan, taking the same route I took. And they're like, yeah, yeah. So,
Cool.
so that was my 2 weeks or maybe 10 days, I think I was in Eritrea, just going to the capital of Asmara and then just begging and
That's
begging
it.
and begging and then just getting turned down. And now in retrospect, I became very good friends with the people who worked in the Ministry of Tourism there, some of them, and they totally sympathized with me. They said it's our leadership who doesn't want you to go, and they said one reason
Yeah.
is that you are an American. And I was stupid. I showed them my American passport instead of my French passport or my Chilean passport. They said would have been even better. But at the time, I didn't. I was stupid. I wasn't thinking. I didn't. It's
Yeah.
the guy, the council in Khartoum, made it sound so easy. So I
Yeah.
let down my guard. I just like said, okay, here you go. I should have but maybe even if I had shown my Chilean passport, I still would have been turned down.
Okay. So two to go.
And so, and then the other story was getting to the tallest mountain of Djibouti. The tallest mountain of Djibouti is about 2,000 meters. It's called Musa Ali, I think it's called. And it's on the summit, Patrick. You have three countries that touch the
Ah, yeah,
summit.
that's a problem.
Yeah. And the three
I've
countries,
cycled to
and
La Casale and La Cabe.
okay. But the tallest mountain, Musa Ali, it's right there shared with Ethiopia,
And
Djibouti,
Eritrea.
and Eritrea.
Yeah.
And at just just off the summit, all three nations have military.
Yeah.
So nobody actually is on the summit, but all three are pointing their guns to the summit because I guess it's like a neutral zone or something like that.
Yes.
And so I was like, oh, fuck. So I tried to go first from Djibouti side to get authorization. They, no, no, no. You have to get letters from the Ministry of Defense. So I went to the Ministry of Defense. No, no, no. Anyway, long stories. And in the end, I said no. So then I tried to go. I'd already tried from the Eritrean side. Of course, I told you that story. And the third
Yeah.
attempt was to go through the
Ethiopian.
Ethiopian side. And there I went there. I got through the military checkpoint and they said, no problem. Da, 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 da. And I met this guy. He says, yeah, I'll take you up there. And I was driving up to the top at night. I get to just a few kilometers from the summit, maybe like 3 kilometers or 4 kilometers from the summit. I can't remember exactly. But the point is that there was a military base. The road ended right there by this kind of base there. And I parked my car and the military came out and they said, what the fuck are you doing here? I'm like, well, I just want to climb the tallest mountain. Right. I mean, not the tallest mountain, this mountain right here, which happened. It's not the tallest mountain of Ethiopia. It's tall.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so I said, and they said, okay, well, just go down the mountain again and get authorization from our commander. And I was like, well, can I just like sleep here overnight and then do that? This is no, we really can't let you sleep at this high point here.
Yeah.
And I was like, I knew that if I was going to go back down the mountain, the military commander is not going to let me go.
Yeah.
But I had no choice because I thought to myself, if they let me sleep there, I can get up at like midnight and sneak up to the tallest point because I wasn't that far, and then be back before sunrise, and
Uh-huh.
then say, okay, I'm ready to go back down the mountain now. I was like, but I couldn't pull that off. And then they arrested me when I was down below, and they held
You're
me.
not bribing them enough, I think.
That's possible. Yes. The short answer is yes, you're right. Um, every step of the way, whenever I encountered these difficulties in Africa, I certainly tried to resort to bribing. But in the end, you're always right because there's always a price. I obviously couldn't go high enough. If I offered them $10,000, I'm sure they would have said yes. So,
Right.
so I definitely offered money always when I encounter difficulties in
Okay.
Africa. But whatever I'm offering is just, I guess, not enough to get them excited. So that's the problem. Oh, okay, and the last one was Tunisia, which is a small mountain. It's, I think, only 1,400 meters,
Yeah.
1,400 meters. Again, it's in a national park. They had recently had some killings there going on by the whatever their terrorist group there. It's not
Al
Al Qaeda,
Qaeda in Maghreb? No?
something like that, but it's not that. They call it something else, like Daesh. They call it Daesh.
Oh,
Daesh,
ISIS. Yeah, okay.
kind of something like that. Anyway, so those guys.
No, no, Daesh is like the name for ISIS.
Thank you. Okay, yes, so that's what it is. And so the military, once again, I went to them, said, "Hey, they have this pristine road, such a
Mm-hmm.
beautiful road. You can see it on Google Maps. It's this nice road right up to the summit. It's paved. It's just so nice. I could just driven up to the top." And they drive up to the top often, like every
Mm-hmm.
week. They go up there. I
But
was like,
not with
"Why don't I
you.
just go with you? Can I just go with you guys?" Nope, nope. And I said, they said, of course, they'd love to do this trick. They say, go to the capital and then ask there. And they do that just to get rid of you because they know
Yes.
that in the capital, most likely, nobody's going to let you in. And that's exactly what. So you're like,
Yeah.
you try as much as you can locally because that's your best chance. And then when the locals say no, anyway.
Yeah,
So
I can understand that problem.
yeah, so those are the four mountains that I never did climb, and I hope to one day, but I'm waiting for. Now Sudan got even worse since then, since I was
Mm-hmm.
there a couple of years ago, and I think, but eventually all these places got. Eritrea had a bright spot recently.
A what?
A bright spot. Eritrea
Oh,
is
yeah.
warmed up to Ethiopia, but not completely yet. They just need a complete leadership change from the summit, from the top. Uh, anyway, but that's not going to happen. Yeah, so I know what you're going to be going through. So if
Yes,
people,
mostly in Africa.
yeah, but I imagine there's,
Central Asia is similar, but
yeah.
the
So
rest is
tell
fine.
me a little because my next big trip is to West and Central Asia. So basically the Gulf states, Middle East, and Central
Yeah,
Asia.
that's fun.
Yeah. So tell me about getting visas along the way, because as you probably know, Patrick, better than anybody, is that there are certain countries that require you to get a visa from your home country.
Yes, Ghana is one of those, but none in Central Asia. You can do all of those easily.
Really on the
Um,
road. But what about was it? I think it's called Turkmenistan. One of them is closed.
it might be because you are American and I'm a European citizen, so you should probably use your French passport.
But isn't it Turkmenistan? Am I right? Turkmenistan is the kind of the closed one, the one that's kind of like a.
It is kind of closed. It depends. You can get easily a transit visa for 3 to 5 days.
Really? Okay.
Yes,
What at the
very easily.
border? At the
No, no,
border?
it was so easy. I went to an embassy and I applied, and they sent it to me by email.
Wow.
Like there was no waiting time. I just went to the embassy, left, and then cycled towards Turkmenistan. And after 10 days, I got the email with the visa. And I went to the border, and they printed it out for me.
Wow. Okay. So Turkmenistan is the most difficult of the bunch, or maybe Saudi Arabia, I guess.
Well, Saudi Arabia didn't have tourist visas till last year, I
Do
think.
they still
So
have tourist visas in Saudi Arabia?
I have not been there yet, so I cannot tell
Okay.
you.
Okay. Yeah.
So Yemen, because of the civil war.
Hmm.
Oman is easy. Then all the Gulf states like Kuwait, Qatar, Bahrain, UAE, super easy. Iraq is easy if you go to Kurdistan. Iran, you might have a problem because Trumpity Trump and, the nuclear deal and nonsense like this. Armenia and Azerbaijan
But
don't
sorry,
like each other.
so for Iran, what did you do? You just got it in the neighboring country, the visa,
I did get the visa in Dushanbe.
which is where I have
In
no idea where that is.
It's the capital of Tajikistan.
Okay. So
So I
you
came from China.
got it. Okay.
Usually most people do a stop in Istanbul for most of the visas.
Okay.
Like you go to Istanbul, wait there, and you get the visa for Iran, Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan.
Okay.
Then you can just go through.
The problem
If
with
you
that
don't get,
is that the visas, some of them they start upon issuance. Some of them do,
yes,
and so
but they are also,
it puts a time, and they may not give you many days. They might just give you a month or something.
I don't think any of those in this area started from the date of issue.
Okay, good. So you just tell them I'm going to be there in the month of September, and then they say, okay, great, we'll make your visa valid for September. Okay,
Yes.
great. Wow, that's so much easier than Africa.
Yeah, it is. It is much easier. Like Kazakhstan, I didn't need a visa at all. Turkey, neither. Then Georgia, Armenia were fine.
One of the big
Azerbaijan was e-visa. You can do online.
wow, that's so
So yeah,
nice. Yeah, there's actually a couple of African countries that are doing e-visas.
Côte d'Ivoire, yeah, the
No,
Ivory
no,
Coast.
no. Also, Rwanda, Zambia is doing it now.
Okay.
Can't remember. They're starting to get their act together. The Africans, with regard to visas, they're getting a little bit easier, slightly. It's nice. Speaking about Africans, one of the challenges also for my trip is that I'm going to be traveling with Rejoice, who is a Cameroonian still and only has a Cameroon passport. So that could cause major problems.
True. I have no idea how that works.
Yeah, exactly. So we forget often how easy it is for people from high-income countries to get visas compared to these low-income countries. It's just night and day. I really saw the difference when I was traveling with her in Africa. She and I went to 31 African countries together and getting visas. And she was so pissed off because she's like, I'm a fucking African. Why can't I visit other African countries? You, Mr. White Man, are from far away, and yet you go into all these countries with ease.
Yeah.
And they won't even let their sister to come into their own country. Into the neighboring country or whatever. So it's very sad and frustrating. And I imagine it's going to be even harder for, places in the Middle East. There's one advantage is that when you're married to somebody in a Muslim society, oftentimes in the conservative one, you're almost like property. So there's an advantage to that because, and this happened a lot in Africa for me, because they just said, okay, well, Francis gets in because he's got the right passport, and
the wife gets in because it's Francis's wife.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so even though we normally don't make it easy for Cameroonians to come in here, but because she's his wife, basically property, therefore, we're not going to stop that from happening. And so they're very, and I think I'm going to guess that in many Muslim countries, there's probably a lot of that going on as well. Like you're not going to let the man in and not let his wife come in too. I imagine.
I haven't tried.
Yeah, I know. You need to get married and try it out. So speaking of which, you're probably never going to get married, are you? Because there's some people on this listening to this who are going to be like, okay, I want to propose to Patrick.
I have no idea. I'm traveling too much. It's very difficult to meet people.
That's true. Yeah, and then when you do meet somebody who has that same wanderlust, they might not want to go at the same intensity as your former girlfriend discovered.
Yeah, or different areas, or not necessarily mountaineering or cycling, and yeah.
We've been talking for 2 hours, and I have really enjoyed this, and I know 100% that we've just skimmed the surface. I mean, we've practically...
Not at all.
I feel like I haven't talked about anything with you.
Yes, we just made a summary and then got sidetracked a little bit.
And then talked about Game of Thrones. Just like,
Yes.
but there's so much more to like
We can
pull
speak
out of
1 hour
your brain.
about each country and then speak
Yeah.
like 24 hours for a week.
We'll just create a brand new podcast called like the Patrick and Francis podcast. We're going to
Yes.
have 193 podcasts, 1 hour on each country. There you go.
I will
Although,
put myself to sleep that way.
exactly. No, but the funny thing is that, and you're going to have a lot more than an hour just to talk about Germany.
Yes. I mean, even Bavaria is a foreign country now. People
What?
talk funny here.
Oh, they talk funny. Yeah, of course. Yeah. So you have the High German. What German, whatever it's called.
Yes, I do have the High German. The people that live here do not.
Exactly. So they look at you as a colonizer.
Yes, a Prussian, they call us. It's not a joke. Like, that's what the Bavarians call non-Bavarians.
Yeah.
I know we in the military base, we had Germans and Americans stationed there, and we always talked about the Americans and called them the Romans because they shouldn't overhear us talking about the Americans.
Oh, goodness. Well, big pleasure talking with you. I would love to meet you face to face one time. And so I'm sure that with all our crazy travels, I hope that we overlap and then we can have another long conversation.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.